Kurt, unlike much of the general aviation and business aviation community, 2011 was not an unwelcome year for you. If you could, summarize what occurred in 2011 and what you're looking forward to in 2012.
Well, actually, 2011 was a good year for us because sales picked up and also our production. We started bringing back and hiring a lot of new workers. Our production from the year before was approximately 160 aircraft, and last year we did over 350 aircraft. So we more than doubled our production, and that itself was actually not enough to keep track of the sales. The sales have gone such that we've increased our production rate, and we're currently producing 10 helicopters a week. The R66, right now we're at 3 aircraft per week, going to 4 aircraft per week, and we are going to move as fast as we can to 6 helicopters per week, which should occur sometime in the second half of this year. Once we hit that production rate, then we'll take a look at where we're at with the order book and increase it to 8 or 9 or whatever we need to do to keep up with the orders.
How has been the relationship with Rolls? You were a launch customer for a new engine series and such, and that's usually a recipe for disaster unless it's done just right.
You know, they've been great. They have people at the factory. They've been watching over all their engines as we've been producing them. Their production rate is fantastic, and they've been a great partner.
One of the things we've noticed in talking to 66 operators is a lot of these folks came straight out of 22s or 44s predominantly, and they're talking about transition times for them that basically was the better part of a day. Is that working for you? Are you finding the focus on transitioning people from piston helicopter to turbine helicopter to be any easier, harder than you had expected?
I think mostly the way we liked it, we spent a lot of time in trying to simplify the startup procedure and to make it such that it's a little bit more intuitive, and as the people transition from a piston engine to a turbine engine, that the start factors and everything are the same. The only thing for somebody who's never flown a turbine aircraft is with a piston engine, if you crank the throttle, it's almost instantaneous. With a turbine engine, it needs to spool up, so there's always a slight delay. That's probably the biggest adjustment or only adjustment that pilots out there are making.
Now, across the board, let's start with the 22.
Well, the 22 obviously is used a lot in training. The other market that it has that is the biggest part of its sales is the cattle mustering or the cattle herding market down in Australia in particular. With that aircraft, because it is nimble and quick, really you can't have a better aircraft to herd cattle at that low altitudes. If you go to the 44, you go to other aircraft, they're just not as quick and nimble and they don't do the job as well.
Now, on your crystal ball for the near future for the 66, our special use configurations, you're working on law enforcement and eventually on news gathering. What's the status of those programs?
Well, the police version of the R66, we're happy to have brought it here to the show. So it's fairly well complete. We are just waiting for final certification on that aircraft. The next version that we're working on or that we have in the pipeline is we have an R66 with floats, and that we're moving through at a fairly rapid rate. We're also looking at installing a cargo hook. We have that one in the works, and then a newscopter, as you mentioned, that'll probably more likely sometime next year.
If I could ask you to talk a little bit about the broader aspect of the entire helo market, why is the helo market succeeding where much of the fixed wing is not?
Well, I can't speak for the fixed wing. I can tell you why our growth has increased. Approximately 70% of our sales have been coming outside the United States. And it's fairly clear to us that the sales around the rest of the world has definitely not only stabilized, but is starting to pick up. And the helicopter is proving its worth in more and more countries.
Aero-TV is brought to you by
the DFC-90 all-digital attitude-based autopilot delivers significant performance and safety improvements over previous generation systems. Its innovative flight envelope protection guards against autopilot-induced stalls, and the straight and level mode provides one-button recovery from unusual attitudes for an added measure of safety. Immensely popular within the cirrus community, the DFC-90 is now being made available for a growing list of aircraft including Piper Matrix and Mirage, Cessna 182s, and Beech Bonanzas and Barons. Fly with confidence. Fly with DFC-90.